Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Social Media Magic Podcast. My name is Brittany. If this is your first time, my name is still Brittany if this isn't your first time, but I'm so glad that you're watching or listening. Thank you so much for being here. I am super excited for this conversation because Lise, who's going to introduce herself in a minute, she's one of my mentors, but I'm just really excited for you to hear from someone who has a different philosophy and take on list building on social media. I really like social media. I was just telling her actually a couple months ago, I'm like, whenever I get that feeling of, can I just get paid to play on social media? And there's almost like this longing. But then I'm like, yeah, actually, I can do that. And so, like, I started playing with sponsored brand deals and being more of an influencer, quote unquote. So it's funny how these things come up. And usually it's those things of when you're getting those nudges. And I know that Lisa's going to talk more about that too, because maybe some of you haven't heard of human design yet. And honestly, I'm a little scared to share with some of you because I don't know if you know this about me, but I have a little bit of woo. Okay. I like a little bit of the woo. So I'm excited for you to hear that. If that's not your thing, totally understand. But I think it'll still be good for you to hear because when you hear advice from me or from someone else, you might not be able to take that on because of who you are. Throw human design out the door for a minute. Just because of who you are, something might not work for you. And so I want you to know that's okay. And I want you to just be open-minded and hear from her and what she thinks about content. So welcome to the show, Lise.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm super excited to be here.
Yay, I'm excited to have you here too. So first of all, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us what do you do in this online business world?
Oh, lots of things. It's always hard to distill everything down into one thing, but I am a business coach, creative strategist, nonfiction author, all the things basically. And when you learn more about human design and you understand that I'm a manifesting generator, that's all normal. So it's all the things. And essentially what I do, and really my philosophy, is to help creative entrepreneurs create a business that's easy and fun, right? Easy and fun, nothing complicated, hard, which is often how we feel things have to be, right? We have this belief that in order for us to see some level of success, it's got to be this hard mountain that we have to climb. It does not have to be that way when you understand what's easy and fun for you, which is very much what Brittany was touching on. When you understand how you're designed to operate, it becomes just a case of going, okay, just filtering it through what is easy and fun for me. So I'm super passionate about that because I've been in business since 2011 and I have done hard and complicated. I'm in a season now where I want easy and fun, and that's what I'm here for.
I love it. And I feel like teachers, by the way, we love sticky notes and stationery and
Mhm.
stuff. And I remember the first time I saw your sticky note system with the months, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to love that because it's so, one, it's so simple. I can see without even explaining it. Okay. By the month, I see like you got your lunch plan there. And then also just colors wise, like your brand is so bright and fun. I feel like that just exudes from you, just exude fun. So I think that's really fun for people to see or hear that even before interacting with Lise, I already had a feel for who she was because of her colors, because of how she presented her stuff and her graphic design. So I just think that's so cool. So before we get into your take on content, which I'm so excited for them to hear, why don't you tell us first what human design is? Because I know I have a lot of people in my audience who have no idea what that is.
Yeah, and it's human design is actually backed by a lot of scientific stuff. So I know that it feels woo, but it really isn't when you dig a little bit deeper. But human design is a combination of astrology, I Ching, a whole bunch of other things, but basically it's personality profiling, but it is based on your exact time of birth and date of birth. So that's how you get your chart. And I often have people saying to me, I don't know my exact time of birth. And so all that I always recommend people do is when you do run your chart, if you don't even have a sense of whether you are AM or PM, just run about 5 different times throughout the entire day, because the reality is there's only a few things that will change. The majority of your type, strategy, and authority, which is the core of human design, will be the same. It's going to be more the nuances in your defined gates and channels and things like that will shift around. Human design really is a culmination of personality test. I'm that personality profile person. I've done all the quiz. I love quizzes. I was the teenager that bought all the magazines just to do the quizzes. And I still love quiz. Like, you put a quiz in front of me, I will do it. And so when I started learning about, I've done Myers-Briggs, I've done the enneagram, I've literally done all the different profiling tools that are out there. And I feel like I was on this journey when I discovered human design because I done strengths finders, which I do highly recommend strengths finders. It's amazing. And then the 4 tendencies, I had just done that. And those two combinations together, had started to really feel like I was heading in a direction. And then when I discovered human design, I was just like, everything just clicked. I was just like, oh, this explains so much, particularly if you're someone who keeps hearing, especially in the online space, where everyone is always trying to get you to niche down, right? They're always telling you have to pick a niche. And I'm just like, but I can't. And for me, that's normal, right? As someone who is multi-passionate, but also multi-focused, I need to actually be doing multiple things. Otherwise, I actually feel like things feel weird if I've not got multiple things on the go. Like I get bored very easily. And so human design just really does allow you to do the things that are easy and fun. And when you learn a little bit more just about your strategy and authority, really just how you're designed to just interact with the world, I really feel like things start to make sense. And it's not that we go through life completely unaware, right? It's not that I discovered human design and my life just changed overnight, because we're adults, right? We know ourselves. I think the thing that I really learned about human design and what it did was it gave me permission to just be me, but also be me in business, because I thought that I had to be different in business, right? I thought that I had to do these things a certain way and I had to approach things. I had to be super salesy and all of those things. And when I started digging into that a little bit more, I was just like, you know what? As a business coach, I want to ensure that my own members and students that I'm working with are also integrating human design, because for me, it really just allowed me to just go, oh, cool. Okay. So I can literally just do this when it comes to marketing. I don't have to dance for my supper. I don't have to chase sales. It can just be easy. And that's really what I'm always talking about. And Brittany knows, because I say it all the time, is I'm just like, it does get to be easy and fun. And it's more about, and what I've discovered with human design is that it gives you the awareness, right? It's not that you look at your human design chart and you go, I have to do exactly what's here. It's more open to interpretation. It's more open to, we all have different life experiences and things like that. There is a lot of freedom and flexibility, which is something that I super appreciate. But the number one thing it does is make you aware. And once you have that awareness, you can't unknow something. And so it just allows you to then get back on track, right? So for me, if something starts to become hard and complicated, I know that I've stepped out of doing the things that are just naturally easy and fun for me. And that just, it happens, right? We're conditioned by everything external, right? Everything, we have so many different inputs. And so it's just the constant realignment for me of, oh, that's right. Let me come back to that. It gets easier and easier the more that you do it.
I love that so much. And I wrote down that really the magic of human design for me has been not even just what it says or what it learns, the insights of those are helpful. It's the habit it's made me of checking in with myself. Like I
Mm,
just didn't do that before. Like you're totally bang on with the whole self-awareness thing. Like I would just do something because I had to do it or because I was like, should do it. Basically just people pleasing to a point. And
yeah.
and I really realized I'm like, that's not even naturally who I am. It's so funny when I think back to what was little Brittany, like when I was a little girl, what was I like? And it's so funny. My grandma said that my grandma raised me and she said that I wouldn't take anything from anybody. And I was just like, I'm going over here by, and I
Yeah.
was so informing people of what I was doing before I even realized that was what it was. I was like, I want to do this now. And I would just not wait for anybody. And I used to just think I was like, only child energy because I wasn't raised with my siblings. I was like, I'm just independent. That's just who I am. And it is who I am. But once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to play and experiment. For me, like the idea of experimentation, that's always
Mhm.
something I've liked doing. I'm going to go try this seasonal job. I'm going to go try this thing. So then when I brought that into social media, which is literally what it is, like you are just experimenting all the time. Okay, let's try B-roll. Let's try face the camera. Let's try this. And so I was like, this is really fun for me. This is very easy and aligned. And when I would try to get myself into maybe a job that was more of, we say generator friendly. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll be sure to put a link where you can go get your chart and see this stuff because it's really cool. But I realized I was putting myself in positions that were not really friendly to who I am. For example, teaching. I would be on a 200% level when I was with the kids, like feeding off their energy, total performer, ham on stage, so fun. I would get home and I felt like I'd be hit by a truck every single day. I'm like, I can't, I don't have energy for anything. And so on weekends, I would just be in recovery. And then I had this like cycle when I was teaching. I was like, why am I always perpetually tired? I actually went to a doctor to see, I was like, is it my hormones? Are they wacky? And I realized it was honestly, I was just doing too much, which it sounds crazy, but I was like, personally, I cannot be doing this stuff so many hours a day. And then when I said, okay, screw it, like I announced I'm going to go do this freelancing thing full time, I felt like a crazy person announcing it, but I will tell you, the path just became clear. Everybody was just like, okay. I was like, really? I was expecting so much resistance. I was expecting for my principal to be like, oh, but you have to stay. No, but just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I'm like, really? It makes sense to all of you guys? I just came to this realization. I'm like, okay, I just feel like everything is so much better. My relationships with other people, I've noticed like when I just say, hey, just let you know, I'm going to be doing this, they go, okay. Like I used to build up so much drama about things. Oh gosh. And I would just, now that I just say it, like everybody's happier. And so with marketing, I've realized for me personally, I have to announce things in advance, which is hard because sometimes I will get an idea and then I'm like, I have to make this happen right now. But now I'm like, okay, I have this idea, but I'm going to make it happen in 2 weeks. And I'm going to tell you right now because I'm excited. And I notice that for me personally, when I do that, it always comes off more authentic. When you said like the different in business, I have a total vocal fry. I'm from Southern California. So I've had to have a professional voice and you can almost hear it like when I start the podcast, I sound more like this. And then when I'm really excited, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you guys. So that's something I've had to be really aware of too, is this personal and professional line being okay to be blurred, especially in what we do. Whereas when you're a teacher, you're trained to cut that out, right? Like nobody can know you're a human, which is just crazy. Yeah. So I love everything that you've shared so far, self-reflection, HDU marketing. Okay, let's talk about marketing for a second. So
Mhm.
one thing I love that's in your program, by the way, I'm not like advertising her program, but it is really good. But okay, but one thing I really liked about it is that you have a certain section. So you have 6-2 profile. Oh, so easy. I can just go right there. Manifestor. Okay, go right there. So how can you talk about how does the type of marketing activities that you do, for example, like blog versus YouTube channel versus podcast? That's something that I get asked a lot, even though I don't specifically focus on that, but because that leads into repurposing for social media and stuff, people wonder. So how can our human design help us choose the platforms that we show up on in our whole kind of content marketing flow?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with manifestors and manifesting generators because we have some similarities. And we can come at it from so many different angles. And this is where the human design piece can be. But let's start there because manifestors and manifesting generators both have defined throat, which means that it's very easy to talk about anything. Brittany and I could literally talk for hours on end about all the things, and we go off on so many different tangents because it's really easy, right? The energy is just there. And so for me, it's natural to do something that involves voice, whether that's podcast or YouTube. But it doesn't mean that you have to, right? That's the other nuance here, is that just because you can doesn't mean you do. And then that's where your authority actually does come in because you follow that, right? That's whatever your inner authority is. And there's 7 different ones. We definitely don't have time to go into all of them, but basically you just trust your inner thing, whatever that is. So for me, that's my gut. My gut is just constantly going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I'm only paying attention to anything that's a yes. So that's why for a long time I had a blog, because I'm also a writer. I have in my throat center, I have a number of different storytelling gates that are defined. And it's one of the easiest ways for me to express things is to write things down. I have an open head center too. So it allows me to process a little bit easier. Although now the more that you become confident with who you are, the easier it is to just speak off the cuff. And so when I started doing video, I started getting really comfortable. I was like, oh, actually now I'm much more inclined to do video than I am a blog. Now, whenever I think about blogging, I'm just like, ugh. Like the energy is just, no, let's not do that. Let's just record a video and get that transcribed, and then I can work from there. So generators, you may have a defined throat, you may not, right? So this is where nuances come in. For generators, you could literally do any of them. Again, it's just about following your gut. But for generators, it's about sharing your joy. So whatever your joy piece is and how you want to express that is how you're designed to do that. And then we've got projectors who could also have a defined throat, but also not. And the same deal, you're here to share your insights, knowledge, and wisdom. And so for you, that's again about whatever that kind of looks like for you. How do you want to connect with your audience? And then for reflectors, you can literally do whatever you want because you just go with the flow. So reflectors are like 1% of the entire world population. So it's very rare. I actually have a couple of reflectors in the membership. And so it's really interesting just to see how they approach everything. And I love getting that inside view. And so for reflectors, again, because you are always reflecting back, you're not absorbing energy like the rest of us are. So as a reflector, it's more about in your immediate environment, what gels with you, what feels really good, and you just do that. And so you could literally find yourself having a podcast, a YouTube channel, and a blog because it could literally span across all three of those things. So from a human design perspective, it's more about just going, okay, if you wanted to make a quick decision, if you have a defined throat, you're going to find that audio and video is going to be really easy. Once you get out of your head, right, that's going to be the challenge. And then everybody else is probably going to find, if you don't have a defined throat, you'll probably find that you're more inclined to write because that's just that energy. When you have an open throat center, you're not really here to verbalize your stuff, you're here to speak for others. So actually, if you had an open throat center, if you wanted to have a podcast, it would be where you would be interviewing people versus you just having a solo podcast, right? So there's nuances. At the end of the day, it's whatever feels right for you. But you've just got to give yourself that permission of, I get to decide, not strategically this makes sense, which is the challenge that we face when we're in business, right? Strategically, this could work, but not if you don't gel with it, right? At the end of the day, the success in your business largely comes down to how excited you are about what you're doing. I can't overemphasize that enough. If you're not excited, then why is your audience going to buy from you? Honestly, it's like the energy. If you think about energy exchange, who wants to buy from someone who's, so hi, my name's Lise, and I have this thing that I really think would be cool for you to buy. I think that it's like, no one's buying that. Just not. So give yourself that permission of, let me do things that are exciting and whatever that feels like for you.
I love that. And the cool thing is about platforms, like there's ideal strategy, but I even tell people, I'm like, first of all, don't just copy what I do, because I try to
Yeah.
tell even the sellers who listen, I do have more of an influencer model because I'm putting myself out there to help you guys this way, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. Instagram is just a tool. It's just a tool. You can use it however you want. There are some people who do completely faceless content and they use it to build their email list. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. You don't have to have a personal brand. I think that's what blows people's mind. It's not even like the idea of, do I have to have it or not? Because you could also do a social media less brand. And I tell people that all the time. I'm not here to convince you. If you're here, you're probably at least interested in social media, but you don't need that either. You can choose, which is really the amazing thing. But even within that, you have choice, right? Because you can choose which features you have. In fact, nowadays, if you're willing to be the one who does things differently, that will help you stand out anyway. If everybody's doing reels and you're only doing these carousel, but they're like blog posts, and I follow accounts like that because I'm like, oh, what's she posting now? I got to go read it because it's good. So it doesn't really matter which platform you choose. Like you get to choose how you show up on it. Actually, just last night, I was telling Lise, she was talking about YouTube. And so I want you to talk a little bit about like your strategy there, because I was always told, and I actually like video, but here's my problem with it. Basically, anytime I even tell myself something, if I tell myself I have to do this XYZ, I immediately don't want to do it. Even if I do like it, I'm like, oh, I cannot be told what to do. I'm like, don't do it. So it's, if someone tells me like, okay, you can only succeed on YouTube if you post one video a week. No. And then even logistically, I travel a lot. And so it just physically can't always happen. And then if I stress myself out, oh, I got to batch 12 videos, I'm going to be gone these weeks. Like that, going into it with that frantic energy is not even going to produce the best videos anyway. And so for me, I'd rather just, you know what? I have lots of energy. I'm going to just bang out so many this weekend, and then I won't make any for a few months. Would you mind just sharing like your philosophy on YouTube and like where it sits in your funnel?
Yeah, so I use a process called discoverable content, which is what influences everything that I do from a content perspective. So I got to this point where I have 400 plus blog posts, which is ridiculous, right? It's too much content. In fact, I've actually unpublished some because they're just not relevant anymore. But the reason why I have that much content is because when I got started, everyone was like, you have to blog once or twice a week, right? If you want any success, you have to do that. So I followed. I was a good little girl and I did all the things. But then as I got further into being in business, and I've been, what is it, almost 10, 12 years. I'm not good with math. Math is not my strong point. That's why I have calculators. I really realized that it wasn't so much about having to do lots and lots of content in a certain way. It's more about being found when your audience is looking for what you offer. And that shift for me was like, okay, this actually makes sense. And then I took it a slightly further and went, okay, let's make sure that every piece of content does its job, right? If I've got off, my job is to present the opportunity for someone to buy from me every single day in whatever shape or form that takes. So discoverable content is then the content that is created based off my offers. So not just, doing content for the sake of doing content, I'm creating content because it has a job. And so for YouTube, what I've done is, this is more what I would class, if we're talking funnel terminology, middle of funnel content. So it's more for a warm audience than it necessarily is for search, although YouTube is a search platform. So you get the pluses of that, but I'm not optimizing for a search engine, right? So I'm not going in there and I'm not looking at although you can, and I'll go back and do it, but I'm not doing it from that perspective. I'm looking at my discoverable content. I'm going, okay, discoverable content plus a money-making marketing plan. So I'm looking at going into February. I'm like, okay, so do I need to create any new discoverable content is my first question to myself. Generally not, because I have so much content that exists. And then, okay, so then what do I need to address in the middle of funnel? And so what I mean by that is the person that's coming into my top of funnel content, which is like what I would say is my blog and social media content. If I had social media content, that is the top of funnel, and that's cold audience. Once someone's in my world and on my email list, I want them to still experience me, particularly if they're not in DIA, right? If they're not in my membership, then they're not getting to see me all the time. So that's where the video piece comes in, right? Video is, and podcast, but video is very much know and trust building. And so that's the content that I have that goes there is a little bit more longer, is a little bit more behind the scenes content, a little bit more digging deep, but focused more on addressing any misconceptions or incorrect beliefs that my audience might have around an offer. I'm hoping that makes sense. Let me see if I can make that a little bit more succinct. So my top of funnel is addressing very direct pain points, highlighting all of that stuff through the lens of an offer. Middle of funnel, or YouTube, for me is still through the lens of an offer, but now much more directed at the person than kind of catch-all pain points. So now I'm being more like, okay, so if you believe that you can't do this, then let me see if I can do a video that shows that actually you can. So yeah, does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense.
No, it does. It does. And that's what makes it so unique, is that most people would say YouTube is at the top, right? Like there are things I've learned that I feel like if you ask them like, oh yeah, content strategy. Okay. So discoverable content or Googleable content, you'd want to have podcast, YouTube channel, or a blog. But actually, you're totally right that YouTube can be middle of funnel. So we were talking about last night is that you use YouTube almost like a nurturing platform, almost like how some people would use Instagram, right? So like a lot of people, they'll go on a podcast and say, oh yeah, if you can find me on Instagram, come find me there. And so usually someone who comes from a podcast, they already have a deeper connection with you because they've heard your voice, they've connected with something you said. And so they're coming to your Instagram really not for the content, they're coming for you, right? They're coming to DM you, they're coming to go check out your links, like it's to learn more. So that would be middle of funnel because they've already discovered you on the podcast. And so for you, like YouTube might be something where someone discovers you. Like for me, I do tutorials because sometimes it just makes sense for social media. Here's how you do something. And that's where they get stuck and they're like, how do I do this? So they would find me because they're not really looking for me. They don't know they're looking for me. They're looking for this. I make a video and then I'm like, hey, if you like this, follow me on Instagram. I want them to come to Instagram because I get rewarded by doing that stuff. But I also want them to get on my email list. So I'm trying to get multiple touch points. So I use YouTube as like top of funnel, and then you use it as middle, and you're not really on social media. By the way, Lise is also one of the people who, she shook her head no, for those of you listening. She also has a static grid, which I've talked to some people about before, and they're like so into that. They're like, what? I don't even have to post on there? And I'm like, yeah, like you can literally use it however you want, which is really cool. Yeah, so I'd love to hear how you came to the conclusion of using YouTube like your social media channel, and what made you think of that? Or is it just like a stroke of creative genius? And then with Instagram as the static grid, I'd love to hear what you do with it or don't do with it. Because I know when I go there, I know what I'm seeing, but just in case someone else hasn't been there yet.
So the YouTube thing, let's remember that I'm a manifesting generator. And so for me, I'm constantly in response. And so what that just simply means is that I'm responding to everything external, which is actually super freeing. I don't have to think up anything, right? Like I don't have to dream up any ideas. I just respond to whatever the universe puts in front of me. I'm either super excited about it or I'm not. And so I can't even remember. Likely someone was doing something on YouTube and I went, that's interesting. Let me see what that would look like. And so that's how that started. And then I've gone the route of having a fairly engaged social media, right? I had a private Facebook group, 3 to 5,000 people in it, but I was starting to get burnt out, and burnout for Manny Jen is a sure sign that you're out of alignment. And so I closed it, right? Like just closed it. I was just like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. And this is very normal for me to just switch tracks, pivot and go in a different direction, but all the time letting my audience know what the heck I'm doing. That's key, right? For me, I have to inform as well because I move so quickly, and the informing piece just slows me down just a little bit to just, for me, ensure that I'm actually putting energy in the correct position. And because I really enjoy doing video, and I do so much video inside DIA as it is, right? Like I do a lot of feedback and stuff like that. I was just like, it's easy for me to do the YouTube content. And people say to me, so my husband says to me, my own coach have said to me many times, the minute that someone connects with you on video, that's it. They're in your world because of the way that you explain things. And I hear that all the time. You explain things really easily. And so for me, I was just like, why wouldn't I just do more video? That makes sense. And then with the Instagram side of things, and even my Facebook page is relatively static, but I repurpose, right? Like you will see that my Facebook page has a lot of video content on there because I can literally repurpose from YouTube, right? So I use a tool called repurpose.io, which makes this super easy. So I can literally just publish one in one space and then repurpose it. And you can even create reels and shorts from your video content using it. It's brilliant. I love it. Not a plug for repurpose.io, but I'm a huge fan of sharing tools that make life easy. And that definitely makes life easy. And I would class it as static, because the difference between static and active is I'm not engaging, right? I'm not going, yes, sure. If someone was to comment on something, of course, I'm going to go and pay attention to that, but I'm not starting conversations. And that's not how I'm not designed to start conversations. I'm designed to respond. And so if someone asks me a question, awesome, stepping straight into response. But yeah, with Instagram, I felt this pressure that I needed to be doing stuff all the time. And you commented on my branding and colors and stuff like that. I love colors. And for a long time, I changed my brand colors all the time. And I have this main core, but then I have some others that I just switch in and out because I love color. And people saying you have to choose one or two colors. I'm like, that's impossible for me to do. And so it was the same with Instagram. Everyone's talking about the aesthetic, and you need to have your grid needs to all look. And I was like, I can't. Like I'm so multifaceted that I can't do that. So I just went, you know what? Instead of worrying about that, let me just go with a static profile. And instead, if I want to, I can do reels and stories, but I don't have to. And the way that my grid is set up is very much like a welcome sequence. If you go through and you read all the posts that are in that 9 grid, it's a welcome sequence, but it's just in that grid. And I have people will come and find my profile and then they'll go through and read that entire 9 grid, right? They'll comment on it and stuff like that. I use my Instagram profile to funnel people to my low cost offer, right? That's its job. And that's all that I'm and because then they obviously get on my email list as well at the same time. Whereas YouTube and my blog are designed to sell and get people on my email list. That's their 2 functions.
I really like that. I like that. Also, by the way, in case anyone didn't know, there's so many ways that you can sell low ticket offers from Instagram directly. I have just experimenting with things. I have put like a digital product as the last slide in a carousel post. I'll address a problem and I'm not even really selling. I'm like talking about the problem, suggesting solutions to solve it. And on the last slide, I'm like, hey, my friend hosts creator camp. You should join through my link. You'll get this stuff. And it's so easy and seamless because by then, just even thinking about the ratio, like 9 slides of like me of pouring my heart and soul into try this. What do you think of this? Or like sharing something like stop chasing followers, all these things that are usually antithetical to what you hear social media people say. And then by slide 10, I have no problem saying you should come do this because if you resonated with all this or if you were shaking your head, then this is going to be perfect for you. So I feel like there's so many things you can do on Instagram. There's ManyChat. If you haven't heard of that, it's like this bot tool where you could automate comments and DMs. For me, that was the biggest save because I hate for people to feel like I'm not responding to them because I don't think they're important. That's not ever what I think. Mine is just I get so tired and I'm like, I can't do it. Like on my phone, I'm like, no, like I can't deal with any more apps and their notifications, especially like I'm doing a lot less client work now. But when I was like, I'm just tapped out. I cannot do anymore. So I'm sure you feel that way, especially if you have kids, especially if you have a full-time job still, like it's just so much. And so the ways that you can save your energy, if someone's asking for a freebie or a low ticket offer, they don't need you to personally go and find the link for them. That's a waste of your time. So automating that is amazing and it's free up to 1,000 followers. That's definitely something you could try, especially if you're just getting started. But I hope that you're also hearing it. There's just so many different ways to use the tool Instagram, right? Like you can have it be almost like a sales page, like how Lisa's doing. If you don't like the idea of, it's like me, like I can't do a video every week. And for you, you're like, I'm supposed to do 3 to 5 reels a week or whatever, because someone said that, then maybe a static grid and then you post a reel when you want to, and then it'll probably be more fun, right? If it's not going to be fun, like just like with YouTube videos, it's the same with Instagram content. Just think about when you're scrolling and you probably don't even watch it. If you see something and you're like, what is this person doing? Flick. Oh, we're so cutthroat when we're just consuming on our own. It's the same thing for other people, right? So it has to be worth your time, their time. And I have found also when I took the stipulations off, it's funny how we don't transfer it. Like I didn't transfer that to YouTube, but Instagram very quickly, I was like, I can't take any of these guys' advice. So I'm just going to do my own thing. And it became fun, like after a couple of years of playing and experimenting with it. So it makes sense. Of course, YouTube would be that same way. I think we've covered like that. Oh, actually, one more thing. You said one time in an email, a difference between being on social media and using social media. And I think that is a message that a lot of people need to hear because a lot of people will say, I don't really like social media. That's what I usually hear from people who work with me. I don't really like social media, but I know I need to be on it. And I usually tell those people, Michael, if that's it, then you can just give yourself the out. You don't have to be on there if you're doing something else, right? There's no requirement. But if you
Absolutely.
want to have a social media presence, there's more than one way to do it. And you don't have to be consuming because a lot of people feel drained by consuming it. So can you share what the difference is between being on it and then using it?
Yeah. So what I was just saying before, right? I'm not starting conversations. I'm not like going and having to post based on some algorithm that says if you want the algorithm to be triggered, you have to do this. So that's what I would class as being on social media, right? Actively doing something on that platform versus using, which is having a presence and repurposing. All of my social media accounts is repurposed content. And what I mean by that is I'm literally scheduling. So video goes on YouTube, automatically gets scheduled to go on my Facebook page. Right. I'm using it, but I'm not on it. With Instagram, if I happen to, because repurpose.io, you can create snippets, which you can use for reels and shorts. So if I happen to do that, and I'm not super, I'm just like, maybe I'll do some, or I might. Sometimes I rewatch my videos. It's not because I think I'm amazing, but sometimes I say stuff and I'm just like, oh, that was really good. I want to distill that down into something really short so that it's impactful. That's when I'll go and then turn that into a short and into a reel. And again, it just gets repurposed. So it's much more about just doing things that are just easy and fun and not feeling like you have to follow a schedule. But also, I will say this, if you want to make money, let's just thing, like let's just all understand that if you're online, you're probably wanting to make money, which means that you run a business. And we still have to put our business hats on and go, okay, if I don't gel with social media, I still have to be somewhere for my audience, right? There's still somewhere in this mix where you need to be connecting. Whatever that looks like for you, you pick that thing. And so ultimately for me, I went, okay, email, YouTube. Those are my 2 platforms where I am going to be active and showing up and connecting with my audience. So you can't do nothing. Like you can't do nothing. That's the biggest thing. But you can do exactly like what Brittany was saying. You can do faceless stuff, right? If you're just like, I'm super introverted, I don't want anyone to hear my voice, I don't want anyone to see my face, then totally fine to do that. And email is awesome for that too, right? They don't need to see, they don't see your face. It's written word, but it's just about, again, circling back to what feels easy and fun for you, and how can you create whatever it is that you're doing in a way that aligns with you energetically, because you don't need to be actively doing all the stuff. You can schedule stuff, you can do all of those things. So it's just, but it is still that thing of, still need to be connecting with your audience, particularly as we move forward. More and more people want connection. People aren't just going to hand over their money like they used to, right? People are much more savvy. They do a lot more due diligence. So it's, when you understand that and you think about how you buy, what your experience is when you're buying online, think about, like, filter that. Like, I'm constantly putting myself in my audience's shoes. Like, how would I want to receive that information? If I was trying to make a decision, what information would I need to know? And so when you start to think about it from your audience's perspective, I actually find it lessens the, oh my God, is anyone going to read this, or is anyone going to engage with it? Like, all of those things. I don't worry about that stuff. Like, even like, my YouTube channel is not huge, but I don't worry about that, because I trust this is where we might step into woo. So I apologize, but I trust that the people who are meant to see and experience my content, I don't need to chase. And that's the biggest difference, right? For me is recognizing and realizing that I don't need to chase anything. If I just continue to follow what is easy and fun for me, everything just aligns. And that's what my experience has been for the last 3 years, is that when I just do that, money just magically appears in my bank account. Like, I'm slightly woo, but also not wrong. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried. And so things are just in alignment. And I trust that process. And that's the difference. Like, I've always, through my entire life, so not just the human design component, whenever things have felt like they're slightly wrong, or I'm just like, oh my God, how's this going to happen? How am I going to pay the bills or anything like that? Things have just always worked out. So I trust that. But I trust it even more, because if I just continue to do the things that are easy and fun for me, but also help others figure out what that looks like for them, then it all just works out.
Totally agree. And I love to hear that. I think that a lot of times we stress ourselves out unnecessarily. And I think about that all the time as a content creator. I'm like, am I contributing to that? I really hope that when people hear that, they listen with the open mind, with an empowered mind, to know, okay, I might take something from this. I might not. I might use this. I might not. And that's okay. By the way, I will never be offended if I share an idea and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like, I am totally cool with that. Like, I know that I'm going to have other different kinds of voices come for that reason, right? Because I think it's good for you to hear different perspectives on social media, on marketing. And some of you will just stay on your marketplace, right? You'll just stay on TPT, Etsy, Amazon, KDP. That's totally fine, right? But I hope that you hear this today and that you do feel encouraged that if you want to be on Instagram, but you don't want to show your face, that's fine. If you don't want to be on Instagram, that's fine. By the way, Instagram isn't the only social media platform. I know I talk about that a lot today, but there's so many different ways you could do it. I know some people who are like Twitter influencers, and you're like, what? But that's a thing. Like, you could be on Twitter and just share your ideas and never show your face, never make a video. They're literally like micro bloggers. So it's whatever you enjoy doing, and also what you actually physically enjoy doing. Like, that sounds silly, but it's okay. If you think a blog would be good, but you don't like writing, then don't be a blogger. Like, but a lot of us get told to do things like that. Oh, go into blogging, and it's okay. If you don't like writing, though, you probably won't enjoy it. And you can try it. You can always just try and see. But yeah, I love this. Thank you so much, Lise. Where can people go to learn from you, buy from you? What do you have going on?
You can just check me out at hustleandgroove.com. That's literally my online space, and that will direct you in lots of different paths. And then I'm just at Hustle and Groove on YouTube, because they've now got that at thing now, which definitely does make things a lot easier to find people.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I wanted to just note something she did there. So she did not say come follow her on Instagram, right? Because that wouldn't make sense. If you liked her, if you like this episode, go follow her on YouTube, because that's where she has all her videos for you. So I hope that you were catching that. Whatever you want for people to do and wherever you want them to follow you, you should lead with that, right? Lead with that and be thinking about, where is everything in my funnel? And by the way, these tools can be in multiple places, right? Instagram can be top of funnel and it could be middle of funnel. Like, you get to decide. Thanks so much, Lise. This was a great conversation.
You're welcome.